Okay, so we're now in the fourth quarter of this year, and as I plan on going for the Southwest Companion Pass for both 2025 and 2026, it's time to apply for my first card, which is the Southwest Priority Card. Now, when starting this strategy, there are certain rules that you must keep in mind since the Southwest credit card lineup are all under Chase Bank. And because of this, Chase credit card rules apply. And if you haven't thought them through before you start this strategy, you may get yourself into a pickle. And trust me, you don't want to be there. So in this video, I'm going to explain how I position myself to first get the Southwest Priority Card for this Companion Pass strategy. You'll watch me apply, and then I'll tell you the most important lessons that I learned along the way. Okay, so as we're dealing with Chase cards, it's really important to figure out where you stand before the application with your pre-application data points. Of course, the most important of these is going to be my Chase 524 status, and at the time of this application, I was 324. And the reason why Chase 524 is so important for this strategy is that I need to get two Southwest cards in rapid succession, so having some wiggle room can be helpful. If you're at 324, you can choose between the personal card first or the business card first. But if you're at 424, you're basically locked into applying for the business Southwest card first if you want to ensure you'll still be able to be at 424 for that next Chase personal Southwest credit card application. So, since I was 324, I got that card first and coincidentally was able to take advantage of a limited time welcome offer. And this was just me being lucky, since when it comes to welcome offers, you're sort of at the mercy of the welcome offer gods because you should be applying for these cards between the beginning of October and at the end of December. So hopefully a limited time welcome offer comes up during this time, but if it doesn't, then you'd have to take the standard offer, which isn't the end of the world, but an elevated offer is always nice. Okay, so that was my 524 status, but in terms of new accounts and hard inquiries, I was 1 of 6, 1 of 12, and 324. And this reflects accounts and inquiries on my Experian credit report, as Chase routinely pulls Experian for my credit card applications. On that note, my Experian credit score at the time of my application was 803, and my last application with Chase was the Chase IHG Premier Business Card about 5 months ago. Now that IHG Business Card doesn't show up on my personal credit report, so it doesn't count towards Chase 524, but since I'm applying with Chase, they can certainly see that application. And so, while it kind of doesn't count, it kind of does at the same time. In any case, I was under 524 and I had a pretty favorable credit card profile. But another important thing to think about with Chase credit cards is that although they don't typically care about the number of cards you have with them, they certainly care about the total credit limit across all of your cards. The general rule is that Chase limits your available credit around 50% of your annual income, but this is definitely more of a guideline than a rule. And in my case, I already know from my last Chase credit card application that I'm at my current credit limit maximum. This is because when I applied for the Chase IHG Premier Business Card, the application was put into a pending review status and was approved only after they shifted some of my existing credit on one of my existing Chase business cards to this new card. And so let's go over my individual Chase credit limits real quickly because it's important when thinking about this upcoming application. On the personal side, I have the United Gateway card with a credit limit of $40,000 and the Ritz-Carlton card with a credit limit of $38,500. And on the business side, I have an Ink Unlimited card and an Ink Cash card, each with a credit limit of $5,000, as well as an IHG Premier Business card with a credit limit of $10,000. So taken all together, my total credit limit across all of my Chase cards is $98,500. And since I know I'm at my Chase credit limit maximum, I know that if I apply for another Chase card, I'll definitely, at the very least, be put into a pending review status. But is there a way to avoid that? Well, maybe, and so I decided to try something new this time around, and I ended up requesting a credit limit decrease before my application. Specifically, I requested a credit limit decrease on my Chase United Gateway card and dropped that credit limit from $40,000 to $30,000. So now I know that I have about $10,000 of available credit with Chase, which they would hopefully use for my next application, and hopefully I'll be able to get an automatic approval. Okay, so now we've planned it all out. But before we get into the application, I want to quickly go over this card and explain why I decided on the Southwest Priority Card, which is the most expensive card in the personal credit card lineup. At the time of my application, the Southwest Priority Card had a limited time welcome offer to earn 85,000 bonus points after spending $3,000 in purchases in the first 3 months from account opening. It has no foreign transaction fees and a $149 annual fee, but it does come with a bunch of Southwest-specific benefits, including a $75 annual Southwest travel credit, 7,500 anniversary points each year, and 4 upgraded boardings per year. The card also comes with a 10,000 Companion Pass qualifying points boost every year, but this perk is available on all the Southwest cards, so it's not unique to the Southwest Priority Card in particular. And by having this benefit, this drops the annual point requirement for the Companion Pass from 135,000 points to 125,000 points, which is always a nice plus. As for the multipliers, it earns 3x points back on Southwest purchases, 2x points back on Rapid Rewards hotel and car rental partners, transit, internet, cable, and phone services, and select streaming, and 1x points back on all other purchases. And just as an aside, these multipliers are not really that good, so I would consider this card to be a benefits card and not a spending card. Honestly, it really should only be used as a tool to get the Southwest Companion Pass, but that's just my personal opinion. Okay, so that's the card in a nutshell. So I want to get into the reason why I decided to get this card. As we know, Southwest is undergoing some major changes in the upcoming year, and their classic free-for-all seating model will be replaced with a more traditional seat selection model. And because of this change, there's a lot of downstream effects for their credit card lineup, since benefits such as early boarding will no longer be relevant. So there are certainly going to be changes to the Southwest credit cards, and this has been announced to be detailed in early 2025. As someone who flies primarily Southwest Airlines, I'm really interested to see what these changes are, and it's definitely possible that I'd be able to take advantage of some of the new offerings on these credit cards once they've changed up. So I'd like to have the Southwest Priority Card to start, and if I don't like the changes or think a lower tier Southwest card would be a better fit, then after a year I have that opportunity to do so to downgrade or cancel the card. To me, the $149 annual fee is worth it so I can have this card at the very least and see what happens when it gets revamped. But of course, if you like this card for what it is, the traditional value proposition of the $75 annual Southwest credit and 7,500 anniversary points also helps to bring down that effective annual fee. Okay, so now that we know all about the Southwest Priority Card, my pre-application stats, and why I decided to get it, let's jump into the application and watch me apply. Alright, so here we are on my friend's referral page, and we can see here that we have the Southwest Priority Card with the 85,000 point offer, so we have the right card with the right welcome offer. Okay, so let's go ahead and click here to apply now. And here's the main page of the application. Small side note, sometimes the application lets you log in if you already have online banking with Chase to pre-fill your application, but in this situation, we didn't have that option. Okay, so we all know the drill, so I'm going to go ahead and fill out this whole application, and then I'll come back when it's all done. Alright, so I've completed the application, and here we are at the end where I've checked off that we've read and agreed to the above. So now it's time to apply, so here we go in 3, 2, 1, and submit. Well, I was really hoping for that automatic approval, but I guess not. It says, "Thanks for applying, Stanley. We need to review your application. We'll let you know our decision in writing as soon as we can, and if you're approved, you'll receive your card in 7 to 10 business days. Please don't resubmit your application." Well, that sucks. So I guess the credit limit decrease really didn't help at all. Okay, so here's where things get a little more interesting because I've had my fair share of credit card applications go to a pending status, but I wasn't really prepared for what came next. Of course, I was immediately hit with a hard inquiry on my Experian credit report, so no surprises there. But as per usual, I called the Chase reconsideration line, and when I did, it was interesting that they now have this automated system where you can enter your social security number and they can automatically find your application and tell you the status of your application itself. So I ended up doing that, and the system told me that my application is currently being reviewed and to expect a decision within 7 to 10 business days. Of course, I don't trust robots, and so I dialed 0 to get to an actual human on the other line to see if we could move things along. And when I did, they told me the same thing, that my application was in review, there was nothing further that was needed, and to just wait. And so I did. I waited a couple of days and hear absolutely nothing from Chase. No phone call, no text message, not even an email. And so about 3 business days later, I called the reconsideration line again dial 0 and speak to another customer service representative. This person then tells me that it looks like my application went to their underwriting department and to wait a few more days. Okay, fine. So I wait another 3 business days and again, still nothing. So I dial up the reconsideration line and the customer service rep tells me that my application has moved to their second underwriting team. And that's super weird, by the way, because I've never even heard of that before. He tells me just to wait a few more days, and so I do. But at this point, to be quite honest, I think I'm getting trolled because this is getting a little ridiculous. Well, 3 business days later, which in total is now almost 2 weeks later, I still haven't heard anything from anyone. And so I call the Recon line again, get told the same spiel about the underwriting process, but this time I gently but firmly tell the customer service rep that it's almost been 2 weeks since I applied, and respectfully, what are you doing over there, and why is this taking so long? I asked if there was any way I could speak to their applications team, and the customer service rep transferred me to their department. And so I explained my case to them, and the guy says that the problem is that because my total credit limit is above $75,000, it needs to be signed off by a manager before the card can be approved. And so I said, well, that's great. When's that gonna happen? And that guy couldn't really give me a straight answer. And so after hanging up with Chase for the last time, I realized that this wasn't really working out, and I had to do something different, so I decided to go to my local Chase branch. I spoke to a Chase banker there about my situation, and at first she told me that she couldn't find my application, but after showing her my confirmation email that I got after I submitted that application online, she called an internal department to get that figured out. They eventually were able to find my application, and the banker from Chase verified my identity and told them that I was there, physically sitting in branch. After she hung up, she told me that I should hear from them at the latest in 2 business days. And so I left the Chase branch, but not even 15 minutes later, I got a phone call from Chase Fraud Services who asked if it was me who sent in my credit card application for the Chase Southwest Priority Card. I confirmed that, yes, that was me, and they said to please stay on the line to see if we could get that application approved. And after about 3 minutes on hold, they finally came back and said, "Congratulations, sir, you've been approved for the Southwest Priority Card," and that I would receive the card in 7 to 10 business days. And then they told me my credit limit, which was $4,000. Remember that I had previously requested a credit limit decrease for $10,000, so Chase still has $6,000 of my donated credit limit left. And I guess that's fine because when I apply for my Chase Southwest business card, hopefully that $6,000 will go back onto that card and I'll get it back then. But we'll see. Okay, so that was my very long-winded story about what I had to go through to get this card, which was definitely a first for me. I was surprised because Chase is usually really good about communicating when a credit card application is in review. But for some reason, this time, they didn't do a good job until I spoke to a Chase banker in branch. And so what I learned from this application experience is that I'm no longer going to trust the Recon line or anything the customer service rep says if I don't hear from them within a reasonable time frame. If my application ends up being in a pending review status and I don't hear from Chase within 2 to 3 days, I'm just going to go into a Chase branch and deal with it with a personal banker. Since my application was resolved so quickly after my meeting in branch, it was likely that all the customer service agents from the Recon line had no idea what they were talking about. So in the future, I'm not going to waste their time, they're not going to waste my time, and I think it's going to be better for both parties in the end. The nice thing though is that I get to go through this entire process in about a month, again, when I apply for the Southwest Performance Business Card, so we'll see what happens with that application as well. And so that was my experience applying for the Southwest Priority Card. Just like a lot of my other applications, it definitely wasn't a straightforward one, but I'm glad I got the card at the end, and it was an elevated offer as well, making it even better. And while I talked a lot about my personal application experience, I didn't really go into the Southwest Companion Pass strategy itself. But if you want to know more information about that and how you can do this for yourself, check out this video next.